Hello and welcome to Passing Priority. My name is Mike and today I have a deck tech that has eaten all the food of the banquet and has started making its way through the guest list. Our deck today is built around Korvold, Fae-Cursed King. This deck is my solution to a problem I faced, and it has its origins from one of my favourite commanders. That commander is Krenko, Mob Boss, a mono-red commander that is the face of the Goblin tribe. Over the years, there have been many powerful goblins printed, which has led to many goblin combos being available. This has led to an issue. Many of these combos accidentally make their way into Krenko, or a majority of the parts are included, posing the question, do I tune my Krenko deck to be a combo deck? But Wizards has done a great job at also printing fun and casual level goblins that also need a home. So the solution I have is to keep Krenko as its origin, being the leader of a large army of goblins that smash face, and find a new home for any goblin combos that can win the game with only a few cards. Enter Korvold. Adding green and black adds mana ramp, better card draw, tutors, and Korvold's own draw ability all enable a faster and more powerful gameplay. I haven't said it yet, but this deck will not be for all playgroups. But this for me will be a powerful deck that I play when I want a fast game, we bring out our powerful decks, or I want to play Arch Enemy. So if you want to play this deck, make sure you chat with your playgroup first. Also, to keep to the original Goblin theme, all creatures except Korvold in this deck are goblins, meaning no elves for fast mana, no creature tutors unless they are on goblin bodies, and no chaos unless it's a goblin throwing itself at our opponent's face. And if you want to build this deck, in the description there are two versions. One is the full powered version, full of fast mana, powerful lands, and the best tutors available. But if you don't have a bottomless bank account, or your playgroup is not okay with proxies. The other has kept the goblin combos and setup pieces, but has replaced the most expensive mana ramp and lands with budget versions, taking the cost down from over $3,000 to under $200, but keeping the feel and game plan untouched. And since we have two decks, I'm not going to go into detail about all the cards we have included, but instead we will look at the goblin based combos we're using to end the game. But our plan for the early game is the same. We want to ramp out fast. Some of our combos are low mana cost, but this deck isn't aiming to win turn 2 like a Korvold EDH deck, so we will need to build up mana to pull them off. Next, we want to fetch the pieces of one of our combos. Each deck list contains over 10 tutors that we can fetch whatever piece we want. Our tutors can fetch a mix of different pieces, so deciding on what combo line we play can depend on what we can go and fetch. But one of the best cards to fetch up regardless of what we are trying to do has got to be Goblin Recruiter. This 2-mana goblin helps set up our combos like no other card in our deck. When it enters, we can search our library for any number of goblin cards, reveal them, then shuffle our library, and put the goblins we fetched on top of our library in any order. This can fetch as many goblins as we need to get our combos online, even setting up a backup plan in case our combo gets stopped. And one of the best goblins to put on top of this pile is Muxus, Goblin Grandee. This 6-mana goblin is the highest mana cost we've included in either deck. But when Muxus enters the battlefield, we reveal the top 6 cards of our library, and put all goblin creatures with mana value of 3 or less straight onto the battlefield. It's this ability when combining with Goblin Recruiter that can instantly fill our board with all the goblins we need to win the game immediately. And before we look at our combos, it's worth taking a moment to mention, a lot of our combos involve sacrificing our goblins, and with Korvold out we will keep drawing cards. This could be a problem if the amount of goblins we need to sacrifice to win the game is greater than our library size. The easiest way to deal with this is to get rid of Korvold before we start running out of cards. We have some single target removal, but one card that falls nicely into our plan is Warren Weirding. This unusual card has a target player sacrifice a creature, and create 2 goblins if a goblin was the sacrificed creature. But the really interesting part of this card is that this sorcery is a goblin, meaning that we can include it in any pile that Goblin Recruiter sets up. We just need to make sure that when using Muxus to crack our pile, there are 6 creatures ahead of this card, as we can't put it on the battlefield and we'll need to go to the bottom of our library. Let's start with our smallest combo. For this, we need Goblin Sharpshooter, Splinter Twin, and there needs to be another 1 toughness creature somewhere on the battlefield. We will start with Goblin Sharpshooter on the battlefield, and it needs to be able to tap to activate its ability, so we'll either need to wait a turn or use Torch Courier to give it haste. Next we enchant Goblin Sharpshooter with Splinter Twin. Splinter Twin gives our goblin the ability to tap to make a token copy of itself with haste that we will need to exile at the beginning of the end step. And using this ability is what we do next. Now we have our tapped original goblin sharpshooter enchanted with Splinter Twin, and a new token copy with haste. And this is why we need another 1 toughness creature somewhere on the battlefield. Because our token copy is going to tap to deal 1 point of damage to it, killing it. That creature dying will cause the untap ability on both our goblin sharpshooters to trigger, and untap both. And now that we're set up, this is the start of our game winning loop. We tap the goblin sharpshooter enchanted with Splinter Twin. This makes a second token copy. Tap one of the copies to deal 1 point of damage to any target, and tap the remaining token to deal 1 point of damage to itself. This kills the token, and the other 2 goblin sharpshooters will trigger that a creature has died and untap. We are now back where we started with 1 point of damage dealt. We can repeat this loop until our opponents are dead. Our next 2 combos require us to use 3 cards, 2 goblins to create the combo, and a sack outlet is also required. The first of these 2 uses Grumgully the Generous, Murderous Redcap, and any goblin sack outlet. We will start with all 3 on the battlefield. Sack Murderous Redcap to the sack outlet. In this instance, it doesn't matter what it does. Once Murderous Redcap is in our graveyard, its Persist ability will trigger. Persist will return Murderous Redcap to the battlefield with a -1/-1 counter on it, providing it didn't have a -1/-1 counter on it when we sacrificed it. So Murderous Redcap will return to the battlefield with a -1/-1 counter, but this is where Grumgully does her thing. She makes it so that all non-human creatures enter the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter. And since we only have goblins, she does this to all our creatures. Now Murderous Redcap enters with a -1 counter and a +1 counter, and its enter the battlefield ability goes on the stack. Before anything can happen, state-based action will see that the -1 counter and +1 counter cancel each other out, and remove both from Murderous Redcap. And then Murderous Redcap can deal 2 damage to any target. Now we are back where we started, but with 2 damage dealt to any source. We can now repeat this loop to deal infinite damage to our opponent's creatures, planeswalkers, and more importantly, their life total. We also have another goblin that can stand in for Murderous Redcap. Putrid Goblin also has Persist, but will require our sack outlet to be Sling Gang Lieutenant in order to win the game, as Putrid Goblin doesn't have a way to damage our opponents. Our next combo uses a well-known goblin for creating combos, Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker. But because none of the usual untappers he pairs with are goblins, we need to pair him with a goblin that has an ability to reset him. For this combo, Lightning Crafter fills that role. Lightning Crafter has 2 useful abilities. First, it can be tapped to deal 3 points of damage to any target. This is how we will win the game, but its champion ability, that requires us to exile a goblin or shaman as it enters the battlefield, is how we reset our Kiki-Jiki. And again, we need any goblin sack outlet for this combo to work. We will start with Kiki-Jiki and our sack outlet on the battlefield. We cast and resolve Lightning Crafter, and when it enters the battlefield, its champion trigger goes on the stack. This is where our combo starts. Before resolving this ability, we tap Kiki-Jiki to make a token copy of Lightning Crafter. This token copy comes into play with haste and another champion trigger goes on the stack, this one belonging to our token. We let this trigger resolve and exile Kiki-Jiki with it. Now we still have the original champion trigger on the stack, but we are going to tap our Lightning Crafter copy. We can do this because Kiki-Jiki gives it haste and deal 3 damage to any target. Then we sacrifice our token copy of Lightning Crafter to our sack outlet. This triggers the last part of the token's champion ability, returning our Kiki-Jiki to the battlefield. Now we are back to the start of our combo. Our original Lightning Crafter still wants to champion something, but because everything we do is response to that trigger, we don't need to worry about it. We just tap Kiki-Jiki to make a copy of it again, dealing infinite damage to our opponents. If the champion ability sounds confusing, it's best to imagine it acting like the white enchantment Banishing Light. Whatever is exiled with it, we can put underneath the card, and when the top card is removed, we get the bottom card back. Our last combo is more mana intensive and needs more parts. We need 7 mana, 4 that needs to be red, and 1 that needs to be black. And we need a way outside our combo pieces to draw a single card. This is where having our commander on the battlefield and a sack outlet can be useful. A note, We don't want to sacrifice a fetch land because we will be forced to shuffle our library, and this combo requires us to set up the top of our library with Goblin Recruiter. So having a goblin that can sacrifice itself, or a card like a Key Avalancher that can trigger Korvold just once will be enough. We will start our combo by casting Goblin Recruiter, and when it enters we search our library for Conspicuous Snoop, Torch Courier, Warren Weirding, Kiki Jiki and Mob Fanatic. Then we put them on top of our library in that order. This is where we need to draw a card, adding Conspicuous Snoop to our hand. We cast Conspicuous Snoop, which will cause us to reveal the top card of our library, showing our Torch Courier. Using Conspicuous Snoop's ability that lets us cast goblins from the top of our library, we cast Torch Courier. This will now show Warren Weirding on the top of our library. Torch Courier will not be staying on the battlefield for long though, as we need to sacrifice it to give Conspicuous Snoop haste. Doing this with Korvold out will force us to draw a card. This is why we put Warren Weirding into our pile. We draw the Weirding and now have Kiki Jiki on top. Conspicuous Snoop has an ability that allows it to gain all activated abilities of the goblin on top of our library. So Conspicuous Snoop now has the ability to tap and make a hasty copy of any non-legendary creature on the battlefield. So we tap our Conspicuous Snoop and it can make a copy of itself because it is a non-legendary creature. The new token copy of Conspicuous Snoop also shares the ability to tap and make a token copy of itself. And because the Kiki Jiki ability gives the token haste, we can tap our new token and make another token copy of itself. We can repeat this until we have filled the board with infinite token copies of Conspicuous Snoop that are all tapped and one token left that is untapped. The last thing we need to do is get rid of Korvold. We will cast Warren Weirding, targeting ourselves and sacrificing Korvold to the effect. Korvold will trigger one last time and has us draw Kiki Jiki, leaving Mog Fanatic on top of our library. Now our infinite copies of Conspicuous Snoop have the ability to sacrifice themselves to deal 1 point of damage to anything. We can start sacrificing them to deal 1 point of damage to our opponents with this ability an infinite amount of times to win. And that is the last combo we're going to cover in this deck. Remember, this deck may not be for every playgroup as it is solely focused on comboing off. We only run a few pieces of interaction, with most cards being focused on protecting the stuff we are doing. But if you decide to play this deck, I wish your opponents the best of luck fighting off a barrage of goblins throwing themselves at their faces. Unlike the flavour text of Goblin Bombardment, 1 Mog to aim the catapult, 1 Mog to steer the rock. I hope you've enjoyed this deck tech. This is a very different style from previous videos I've released, so if you like the change, or if you don't, let me know why in the comments, and maybe I can explore new ways of making content we can all enjoy. Both deck lists can be found in the description below, and if you want a place to find all the decks we've shown off so far, check out our website passingpriority.com, where we have the deck vault, links to all the decks we've covered on the channel. And don't forget to subscribe to us here on YouTube to see who the next legend we build a deck around will be. Thank you for listening, and goodbye for now.